Right now, 1 in 4 Americans are functionally unemployed. Millions are struggling to make it to their next paycheck. Some people will never find a job. This matters even if you have a job. Why is this happening? What can we do about it? Let's get into it. When you hear unemployment, you probably think of the official number the government throws out, like 4%. It makes it seem like everything is going all right. The economy is chugging along. We're all going to figure it out. We're going to make it at some point. We have enough money to provide for the basics, maybe even to splurge a little bit. But that number is inaccurate. Instead, let's look at a report from the Ludwig Institute for Shared Economy Prosperity. They've measured unemployment differently, and it's called the true rate of unemployment. So one of the big questions is, what's functional unemployment? According to this report, functional unemployment includes 3 groups. These 3 groups are left out of the official government number. First, people who are jobless but have stopped looking for work. We all know somebody in this category. They've quit. They've thrown the towel in. Maybe they sent off 100, 200, 300 resumes and they've been ghosted. They never hear back. What's the point of it anyway? AI's coming around the corner. Artificial intelligence is coming for everyone's jobs. So instead, they lay on the couch, they lay on the bed, they watch Netflix, they watch Apple TV, and they just sit there. They lay there. Someone has to take care of them. Who's taking care of them? Is it a family member? Is it government subsidies? Somebody has to provide, or they wouldn't be able to live. Those people, they're not included in the 4% number. If they were included, that number would go way up higher. Politicians don't want that. Number 2 is people who have a job, but it's part-time, and they want full-time work. Imagine you're in Subway making those meatball subs. You're slapping those meatballs on there. You're only working 20 hours a week. You need 35 hours. If you don't make 35 hours, rent doesn't get paid. But you're not able to make it. So you have to actually get multiple part-time jobs if you can swing it. And then you have your side gig that you're trying to manage as well. Will you make rent at the end of the month? It's anyone's guess. It's not guaranteed. The government's not counting you towards their 4% number because technically you're employed, even though you're only working a small portion of the hours you would like to work. You want to be full-time. Number 3 is people who have a full-time job, but they earn less than $25,000 a year. This is called the working poor. You're working 40 hours a week or even more than 40 hours a week, but you're not able to make ends meet. You're barely surviving. You're barely hanging on. And benefits, forget about benefits. You ask your boss about benefits, he'll say it's a benefit that you can keep your job. That's your benefit. So what do you have to do in this situation? Well, you go to SNAP, right, for the food subsidy. You go to Section 8. You start charging up debt to your credit card. You're asking family for loans, and you're getting into a black hole that you don't think you're ever going to get out of. The report crunched the numbers of these 3 categories and found 24.3% of Americans are functionally unemployed. That's nearly a quarter of the country, and it's 6 times higher than the number we're being fed. It's not 4%, it's 4 times 6. It's 24%. And it's on the rise. If you look last year, it was 22%. So more and more people are falling into one of these 3 categories. Things are not getting better as much as you hear every month. You hear the unemployment rate. It's advertised on TV, on social media. Unemployment's down, record unemployment. But these individuals, they're not doing any better. And it's one of the main reasons that people feel the economy is rigged against them. So what do? Every 2 to 4 years, they vote for change. They're always looking for change. And when change gets here, it's not good enough and they vote for change again. So who's getting hit the hardest? According to this report, Black Americans have a higher true unemployment rate than white Americans every single month since 1995. After that, it's Hispanic Americans. And one of the big reasons why is because Black Americans, Hispanic Americans are overrepresented in less stable jobs. Jobs in retail, hospitality, gig work, home health, or custodial services. These are some of the first jobs that get cut when there's an economic downturn, when there's a recession, when there's a pandemic. 10% of all jobs are in retail. You don't really get any real benefits, substantial benefits in retail. And what happens when you lose your job over there? Are you getting a severance? You're not getting a severance. These type of jobs rarely offer a severance. Who is getting a severance are white collar employees. Google, Facebook, Microsoft, federal government workers, they get severances, not people in these industries. And then there's geography. Places like Flint, Michigan, York, Pennsylvania, Albany, Georgia. These were former industrial hubs that have closed down. What has replaced them? Well, if they're lucky, they'll have some component of tourism that brings some money in. But really what's bringing money in is retail. Retail has replaced manufacturing at a lot of these places. So what happens when you hear about the economy booming? It's not booming in Flint, Michigan. You know where it's booming? San Francisco, California, where there's Silicon Valley. Where else is it booming? Seattle, Washington. What about New York City? Because that's where the financial industry is at. When times are booming, these major cities, these coastal cities, they're booming. Flint, Michigan isn't booming. Mississippi isn't booming either. We also have confidence at an all-time low, especially for younger workers. A report says entry-level employees, they're feeling more pessimistic because what are they looking at? They're looking at artificial intelligence. They're looking at AI taking over large aspects of their job. Are they going to even be employable in the next 10 to 20 years? A lot of people are saying complete industries will no longer be employable at all. Look at self-driving, for instance. Self-driving is a wonderful thing, right? It's going to prevent traffic accidents. But how many jobs do we have across this country that involve driving? 10 million, over 10 million jobs that drive in some capacity, whether it's a truck or it's an Uber or it's a taxi. They're driving jobs that will be displaced. What will those people do? Are they going to have to figure it out? They all cannot be AI engineers. They're going to have to do something. This is why so many people feel down even when the stock market's up or GDP is growing. All right, so let's talk solutions. How do we fix this? First, the first thing that we really need to come to terms with is using the right number. You can't use that fabricated 4% number. That no one's believing that number. Get that number out of here. Put the true unemployment rate on there. No politician's going to want to do it. Nobody wants to be responsible for unemployment jumping up 600% under their watch while they're in office. So that's going to be a struggle to actually get people to start using this number. The second is we have to create good jobs. What are we doing sending billions of dollars to Ukraine or Israel or other countries? Why are we sending so much of our tax-paying dollars overseas to fix international problems? To a certain extent, it makes sense, right? You want to have stability across the world. But then you have to look at your own backyard in your country and think, what are we doing for infrastructure? Why are we not doing more for infrastructure? Let's pour some of that money and create construction jobs. The second thing is healthcare. What are we doing to improve our healthcare to create more healthcare jobs? That's the one industry that we know will grow. It's going to be hard to do that though, because every congressional representative have at least 10 to 15 lobbyists in their face, begging for more money for the latest rocket, for the latest tank, for the super tank. There's a super tank that was in the news recently. What are we doing with super tanks? Let's build some bridges. Let's improve some roads. And then there's manufacturing. Manufacturing needs to grow. But the problem with manufacturing is we're thinking about it from 50 years ago. Like once upon a time, to build and assemble a car, it took 100 people. It doesn't take 100 people today. Today, you could do it 10, 15 people. Look at a company like Tesla. They don't really use that many people at all. You got these huge machines coming through there, stamping parts, and the whole thing looks like it's being printed. The car looks like it's essentially being printed. So even if you bring manufacturing back to this country, it's going to employ a smaller fraction of what was done in the 50s and the 60s and the 1970s. It's never going back to that time. We also need to invest in the people so that they have the skills necessary to get higher paying jobs, to get themselves out of poverty. You could do it by investing in community colleges or trade schools, but really, I'm not that big into universities. I really think the price to get a university degree is outrageous. And most of those degrees, they're not going to get you a good job. There is no guarantee to get a job at all when you invest in a university degree. You're there for 4 to 5 years, you're dumping 6 figures a lot of the times, you're left with a piece of paper, and that piece of paper is no guarantee whatsoever. Instead, it's more important to invest in yourself. Make sure you have the relevant skills and then practice networking to get into a position where a company gives you a chance and you can work your way up. You can start gathering more skills, and it comes down to problem solving. You want to be able to solve problems. What problem can you solve today of a person or a company? You can look at it either way. Can you solve the problem of landscaping? Can you solve the problem that my car is broke and I needed to get it fixed? Can you solve my computer problem? Can you solve my advertising problem? What problem can you solve? Because you need to be a problem solver. Once you have the skill set to solve those problems, that's when you're going to be more marketable, and that's how you're going to be able to lift more people out of poverty. But all of this is a lot easier said than done, than to get people to actually buy into the concept and doing it without some NGO or some other corrupt organization siphoning money away. Now, regardless of how difficult it gets, the number one thing you do not want to do is you do not want to give up on yourself or the people around you. You have to keep going. You have to put the reps in. Whatever it is that you're trying to pursue. You're trying to write a book, your first book is going to be horrible. But do not let that deter you. Keep writing books. The 100th book will be 100 times better than the first. And it'll sell a whole lot better. And that journey between 1 and 100, I'm talking about books, but this could be applied towards anything. That journey, people, they hit a dead end and they falter. They quit. They get discouraged. They give up and they don't do it anymore. And it's to their own detriment. And if you're responsible for anyone else aside from yourself, if you got a family, everyone's depending on you. You can't let people down. You have to strive to be your best self. You have to strive to keep doing the repetitions. Now, in addition to this, we have over $100 million that's going to widespread layoffs to get rid of more jobs, this time in the federal government. The federal workforce is going to be reorganized. The president is going to be given more authority to do all of the reorganizing, and it's all coming in the bill that you know as the Big Beautiful Bill. So if you want to know more about that, check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.